F-86 managed a kill ratio of 8-to-1 against the Chinese fighters.
How Russian-made jets behave in battle with American planes can be seen as Navy Panthers take off on missions over North Korea. Gun sight cameras record for the first time in history a battle between jet fighters as the Panthers...
The Grumman F-9F Panther, the US Navy's second jet fighter, was also successful against Chinese forces, shooting down 2 Yak-9s and 5 MiG-15s with a loss of only 1 Panther. The fighter flew 78,000 sorties during the war and remained in service until 1956, when it was used for training missions.
Carrier-based jet fighter proves its tremendous value.
The F-86 Sabre was the MiG's other primary opponent. Developed in both fighter-bomber and fighter-interceptor variations, the transonic fighter carried 12.7mm AN M3 Browning machine guns that fired at a rate of 1,200 rounds per minute. In 1948, an F-86A set a world speed record of 570 miles per hour. MiGs had the advantage when at high altitudes, Sabres at low, which made most dogfights short as the fighters scrambled to their optimum level. Sabres went on to fly in conflicts across the region, including the Indo-Pakistani War of 1965 and the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971. The Australian, Canadian and German air forces were among the many that acquired or built Sabres in the years following the Korean War. The success of their early MiG models encouraged the Soviets to move forward and develop the MiG-25 Foxbat, which rolled off the production line in 1964 and went into service 6 years later. The space-age design included vacuum tube electronics, 2 turbojet engines, and titanium parts to counter the stresses found when the aircraft hit Mach 2. The MiG-25 was capable of reaching extreme altitudes, and a modified Foxbat set a jet world altitude record in 1977 when it zoomed briefly to 37,650 meters. Soviet propaganda talked up the MiG-25 as an exceptional air combat fighter with above-average agility. The Americans were so spooked they set up the program that resulted in the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Eagle. But the MiG-25 was less maneuverable than the Americans had been led to believe, with limited combat potential. However, it's still in service today in several air forces. After the war, the Brits also forged ahead with jet technology, launching the English Electric Lightning in 1954. The supersonic jet fighter airplane was memorable for its high speeds and natural metal exterior. The first British jets were the Gloucester Meteor and the de Havilland Vampire, but the Electric was a major step forward. Its climb rate of 5,000 feet per second is impressive even by today's standards. In 1962, the Lightning was involved in test flights that reached 87,300 feet, at which distance the pilot reported Earth curvature was visible and the sky was quite dark, but control-wise it was on a knife edge. Following on from Korea, the conflict in Indochina during the 1950s and 60s was another arena where the superpowers and their allies showcased and tested new aviation technology.
First look at the Starfighter, newest member of the Air Force's Century series of advanced supersonic combat planes. This is the F-104, powered by a new and more powerful jet engine. The Lance-like craft has other new features, among them the first downward ejection seat system for a production jet fighter, whose operational altitude is the stratosphere. Described as the most advanced plane of its type, the Lockheed Starfighter goes through its paces. Defense Department films record the premiere of a new star blazing in the sky.
Among the fighters of the 1950s was the Dassault Mystère series flown by the French, as well as the Israeli Air Force. The Mystère 4 was used as both an interceptor and a ground attack fighter in the French war in Indochina. The 4A carried a twin 30mm DEFA cannon and featured the clean lines and sweep of the American Sabres. The 4B, renamed the Super Mystère, was the first European aircraft to fly at supersonic speed. On continuous alert for Soviet aggression, the United States put the Convair F-102 into service during the 50s as a key platform in the nation's air defenses. When the US ramped up its involvement in Vietnam the following decade, the F-102 was given fighter patrol and escort duties. In almost 10 years of flying, only 15 F-102s were lost. Vietnam was the biggest arena for American military might since the Korean War. The United States had the largest air force in the world and was pitted against a much smaller foe, communist North Vietnam. Initially, America planned to provide only strategic military support and equipment to South Vietnam. But as the war progressed, the US became more closely embroiled and committed jet aircraft in 1965. The main jet fighter was the McDonnell F-4 Phantom II. The two-seat carrier-based aircraft could carry a range of munitions, including conventional bombs, cluster bombs, air-to-ground missiles, and nuclear weapons. The fighter's superior thrust gave it a great tactical advantage, as the pilot could engage and disengage at will during combat. However, North Vietnamese pilots were wary of the